Hey guys, good to see you again. Again, as always, I miss you and I wish I could see you every day, but that's not exactly the case as of right now. But today I want to kind of go over some erosion and deposition things that happen because of wind and water, and a deeper in look at that, as well as going over some of the vocabulary that I've given you. Hopefully, most of you guys are figuring out that organizer. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, especially when you gotta download all that good stuff and figure that all out. But hopefully you guys have gotten the hang of that as of right now. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of zoom in on the board here just a little bit. All right, so moving water is a major agent of erosion. As we know about erosion, erosion is a wearing away of land due to water or wind or other agents that we went over prior. Okay, especially during streams, rivers, and beaches and underground water. These are all examples of agents of erosion. So the first one we're going to talk about is a stream. I am going to shorthand these. I don't feel like writing it all out just like you guys, okay? Basically, it's a channel of water that erodes the land. Okay, so as you all know, you all have you've all seen a river before, how the water kind of moves. But as it's moving, the water's moving along the bottom of the lake bed, or excuse me, the riverbed, and it's carrying rock particles with it. And as it's doing that, it's eroding the water, the riverbed, okay, or eroding the land. Okay. Now, obviously, these I want you to keep in mind before we get too far into that. All of this erosion stuff does not happen just like that. Okay, we're talking years and years for this stuff to happen. Okay, it's not going to take months. It's not going to take days. It's going to take years for this stuff to happen or occur. Okay. Now a river, on the other hand, in this example, we're talking about a stream of water that travels down a mountain. Okay, and again, same thing as stream. As it's traveling down the mountain, it's eroding away the mountain, taking rock particles, taking sediment with it. And with water, we have a couple of different things like waterfalls. We've all seen pictures of waterfalls. When the water goes over the end of the waterfall, there's like rocks and stuff that it's constantly beating against or going over. And as it goes over those sorts of things, it wears away the land or it wears away the rock, it wears away the soil and all that good stuff, okay? A floodplain, floodplains are basically areas around like rivers, streams, stuff like that, that would flood every year pretty much. Like, for example, you guys remember a few years ago, I'm not even sure if you guys were born, but a few years ago, right around the river here in Bismarck, after winter, the water rose up on the river, and basically all these houses had a bunch of damage on them because they live in the floodplain. Okay, a lot of houses out in Fargo that live close to the river, they live in the floodplain as well, and it's constantly something they look at after every year during the season is if their house is going to get flooded. Okay, why they built their houses there, I have no idea. It seems like it doesn't seem smart. Okay, now there's something else I want to talk to you, and that's a meander. Some of you guys, some rivers actually look like this. They have these harsh 90-degree angles here. This is actually a characteristic of what they call a young river. Okay, now the one I want to talk about, a meander, on the other hand, has your stereotypical loops like this. Now, eventually, as time goes on, this is going to eventually look like this. Okay, and this is a meander. This, again, kiddos, this is a characteristic of an older river. Okay, because, again, as water flows here, it's going to kind of curve this as it wears away or erodes away the land. Okay, but that's a meander. Okay, the next one I want to talk about is an oxbow. An oxbow is basically where pretend water's flowing here, and then all of a sudden it just kind of wears away the land until eventually it just becomes it just ends up going like this. and then basically this part of the river is cut off, and then you end up having like foliation and trees and stuff growing in there, but there's still water there. That's what they known as an Oxbow lake, and I'm going to try and show you a picture of it right now, because I'm sure this is something you've never heard about before. I know it's not something you run into. I'm not even sure if they really have any in North Dakota that I'm aware of. Don't quote me on that because I'm sure I'm wrong, okay? This is like the best example I can give. All right, you see how off on this, wrong finger. Yeah. See right here, you have your meander over here, and then off further to the, oh God, what are you guys, the left here, you kind of have that cyclical motion right here. That there's water right there. That is known as an Oxbow lake. It used to be part of this river at one point, but then it got cut off, okay, due to erosion and deposition, okay? All right. And the last one that I want to talk about, well, almost the last one, is a delta, okay? I'm going to try and show you a picture of that one as well. Then I'll give you a definition on the board here to help you out a little bit. That way you understand what, oh God, keyboard's not plugged in, hold on. Look at this top tier video I'm giving you here. All right. No, not Delta Airlines. All right. I kind of show this picture almost every year for the most part, I think, because it does a good example. Now, up here is where the river's flowing, and then as you can see, it kind of branches out, almost looks like, oh wow, wrong picture. Right here, the river flows down, and as you can see, the river kind of like branches out like roots, and then out here is actually the river. Now, what does this look like to you down here? It's all brown looking, and I'm not sure if you guys can see that very well. It's all brown looking, it looks like mud, and that's essentially what it is. Where does that mud come from? How is this delta made? Well, as the river flows down from the mountains and whatnot, it takes with it rock particles or sediment. And as it takes the sediment or rock particles, it deposits it, or deposition, the rock particles right around the part where it meets the ocean. So it leaves all this mud here that it takes from hundreds of miles away, and then deposits it down here, making a delta. Okay? But that is a delta. Okay? If you want to know the definition, I'll give it to you right here on the board. So a delta is where sediment is deposited, where the river, quote unquote, meets the ocean. Okay. Now, we have this idea of groundwater. What I mean by groundwater is maybe you guys have parents or maybe you guys have grandparents who you would tell you that they used to drink water from a well. A well, basically, say this is the top of the land. We have shelves, is what they call them, and then there's water deposits here. And usually they drill a well, quote unquote, down into the water, and it basically acts as a straw, and then you get water from it into the ground. Okay. This is an example of, this is groundwater, obviously. Keep in mind that groundwater does some things for us, or gives us these neat characteristics that we are going to see here shortly. Groundwater actually makes things such as stalagmites, which I'm going to show you here in a second. I'm sure you guys have all seen pictures of these. They're like spikes coming down from the ceiling in a cave. The opposite of that, of stalagmites, is actually stalagmites. And those are basically, they're the exact opposite. You have stalactites that come down from the ceiling, and then you have stalagmites that actually are spikes that come up from the ground. For some reason, it's taking forever to load, so I won't belabor you there. But basically, those features in caves and inside of the Black Hills and such like that. Oh, here we go. Okay, oh well. So here, we're focusing on the spikes coming up from the ground. Those are all caused by groundwater or water that runs throughout the bottom of the, well, in the ground, okay? So keep that in mind as we're going over this. This is all caused by water. These are all caused by deltas, moving rock particles, moving sediment around, okay? But that's pretty much all I wanted to go over with you. Make sure you guys are watching these and make sure you're going over this a little bit because everything that I go over in my lecture is going to be on your quiz here tomorrow, I think. Okay. So again, once real quick before I end this off because the video is almost over, I do miss you and I hope that you guys are doing the things you need to do. Okay. Till next time. See ya.